Welcome to this special Gold Derby Meet the Experts TV cinematography panel. I'm News and Features Editor Ray Richmond, and I'm joined today by cinematographers Tobias Schliessler of the Netflix limited series All the Light We Cannot See, Andrew Wehde of the FX series The Bear, Ulvik Rokseth of the Peacock limited series The Continental from the World of John Wick, Ed Moore of the Apple TV Plus limited series Hijacked, and John Lindley of the FX series Justified City Primeval. Hello, all of you esteemed directors of photography. It's exciting to have such a talented and accomplished group here today. Let's start things off by going back in time a bit to briefly discuss what made you decide that overseeing camera operation and lighting is going to be your career path. Can you remember the moment when you realized this was your passion? Maybe when you were 9 and recording your sister chasing birds in the backyard. Let's start with you, Tobias.
Well, I come from a little bit of a film family. My father was actually a mountain climber. They did mountain climbing films back in Germany. And I grew up with cameras around me. And I started loving taking still photography and then decided to go to film school. I moved to Canada, went to film school in Canada in Vancouver. And wasn't quite sure if I would go to editing, directing first, or cinematography. But it became pretty clear to me, I started shooting student films. I loved it so much. I ended up just concentrating on cinematography and never looked back. And to this day, I love nothing more.
Andrew?
Great question. I honestly have no clue what got me to this love, except for the fact that I can't stop it. It's an addiction for me. Everything from camera, lighting, it probably was lenses, which is why, I put so much focus into my lens and lens choices. But truly, it's been a long path for me. I don't know anything but this from film school. I've done nothing but, what I do today. And, I live, breathe it. I'm just addicted.
It's in your veins. How about you, Paul? What convinced you when you were a young lad that being a DP was your career path? Actually, you're still a young lad.
Yeah. No, I guess I also come from a creative family. My mother is, or also film family. My mother is a costume designer. But I was actually going to be a industrial designer, drawing. So I went to drawing high school, like drawing and painting. But my mom took me to the film set, right? And then I was like, who's that dude on the iron horse? And then I was, yeah, that's the cinematographer. And then from there on, it's, obviously just been hyper focal on one path. But maybe the only other place I love more maybe is in the cinema watching movies. So, that's probably from young age was where I got the love for cinema, I guess.
Being at movies. How about you, Ed?
Well, I guess I'd love to say that I was 5 years old and I saw light crawling up her. But actually, I remember being 15 and my mum said, I had a job in a cafe when I was your age. Go and get a job. And I happened to just find a job at the local theatre doing. I was like the follow spot guy, and that just led to a few years just working in theatre lighting. I loved it. I did just touring rock and roll stuff. I wanted to be a theatre lighting designer. I love that thing of just you start with a completely dark room and you fire that first light, and it's a long story from there to here. But so I guess it was lighting that got me into it, and now like you guys, I'd like, I can't imagine doing anything else, but also I'm totally unemployable in any other capacity. So I'm stuck with this.
As so many of us are in our chosen field. And finally, you, John?
I loved cameras as a child and I always took still pictures. I wasn't that good at it, so I failed up, and I went to film school to avoid the draft during the Vietnam War. And I fell in with a camera crew. The assistant had lost his wallet, and he is a product of a very progressive education. He couldn't read or write, basically, but he asked me to write a letter to his credit card companies, and he loved the letter I wrote, which said, I lost my credit cards, please shut them off. And so he brought me into the camera crew, and here I am. And if anybody had ever figured out that I would do this for free, I would have starved to death. But I'm very blessed to have done this work.
And the rest is history. Next, I'm sure you guys have all been at this job long enough now to have developed some rules for yourself, like lines you won't cross. Maybe it's, don't ever tell the director it's time to break for lunch. Share one unbreakable rule you've set for yourself, and perhaps the lesson that led to it. Let's go in reverse order. Start with you this time, John. Tell me one of your unbreakable rules on this.
It's so easy. I'm glad you asked this question, because one of the first things I ever shot was a TV movie in Banff, and it was the winter, and I had to do this complicated crane shot, and it didn't occur to me that I should worry too much about where the light was, and the sleigh comes under the crane, and there it is, the perfect shadow of the crane. So, front lit crane shots, yeah, I figured out not to do that.
There you go. Ed, how about you?
What a great question. I mean, I think if you want like a pithy lighting based one, it's usually that the last light you put on you don't need. Like, you try and do too much, you overthink everything. Like, take everything else out, start with one light and go from there.
Paul?
Yeah, I don't know. It's difficult. It's I guess I'm trying to go against myself in everything I do. It's if you get too comfortable, I think that's I try not to be. I try to be scared, shit scared every day. That's the best. To try to evolve the lighting into something into which is a little bit unexpected. Try to remember to have perfect light is also a challenge for me. That not to be too beauty.
And to not be too comfortable.
Yeah, not too comfortable. Yeah. Yeah, look at the real light in the nature. It's not always pretty perfect.
And you, Andrew, tell me a lesson you've learned and a rule that resulted from it.
It's a question that it's very hard for me to answer because I don't really know many rules that I set for myself, other than the fact that one of my rules is, you got to be quiet on set. I'm pretty calm, pretty quiet, and it tends to set a tone. So I kind of set that with my crew. I think, it's funny, the whole lighting thing. Yeah, it's like less is more. So I try to kind of communicate that to my gaffer in a sense of like, let's approach everything and how would we see it on a scout, and let's just kind of replicate that beauty instead of turn it all off and replace it all. So simple is kind of the rule for me.
And how about you, Tobias?
Well, it's a great question too. I think for me, a lot of it is that balance of, how much time do I spend on my work on set, and how much time do I really give the director, or how much, like for me at the beginning, I think I kind of concentrated more on my focus, and I realized quickly that it's about the actors, it's about the director, and I'm working for him. And so it's finding that balance of really getting what I want, but also giving the director the time that he needs with the actors. That's sort of one of my big rules, is like being there for the director and giving him what he needs first. And I come second, but I still try to make it as good as I can.
It's striking how little time the directors have. I often think that if you set like a chess clock, when they actually get, here you go, do what do you need, versus so much of the time is like someone's doing something, someone's asking them something. And I totally agree. Like protecting them so they can do their job and they're not just being told no all the time is so important for us.
Last question for you, gentlemen. What would you say has been your most challenging project as a DP, and why? And it can be the one that we're talking about today, but it doesn't have to. Let's start with you, Paul.
Well, I don't have a good memory, but the one I'm shooting a feature just now, and like the daylight is so slim here, so I kind of have to start out lighting a sequence in daylight, and then it has to be at lunch, and then transition into lighting it, which is really hard, I think. And I much prefer it to be just daylight for 20 hours. That would be good. Obviously, you don't want to work 20 hours, but more days of shooting natural light would be great.
And that's what's the name of that feature?
It's called Number 24. It's a feature about our biggest war hero in Norway, about the resistance actually during Second World War. So
Oh, fascinating.
very in these times, I guess.
How about you, Andrew?
It would be, for me, it's The Bear. It's season 2. It's for what we needed to accomplish in the very short amount of time. Not many people know, but we have 4.5 days an episode on The Bear. We are, having scripts that range anywhere from 24 to 100, I don't know, 65 pages. That's not changing the days we have. It doesn't change the budget we have. And we have actors who want to walk in. We have a director who wants to walk in and they want to shoot. I provided in season 2, we had the first shot off every single day of 45 days, 15 minutes after call time. And it was a goal of mine. And that came with a lot of planning, a lot of preparation, a lot of amazing rigging crews, departments being ready and jumping ahead. And it gave, just like we were talking before, it gave our director the maximum amount of time in that day to capture as much as he could versus, I think, traditional television where you spend a lot of time in the early, start of each day to get yourself up, and then you spend a lot of time turning around. The Bear is a massive test to prove that you can light scenes in 360 in a way that gave the director full flexibility and the ability to change based on rehearsals and not have to relight. And so the Bear season 2 was a massive undertaking.
I believe that. How about you, Tobias? What's been your most challenging project to date?
I think maybe Friday Night Lights, quite honestly, because I met Pete Berg for lunch, and he asked, and had done a movie with him before, and he asked me, what do you think about American football? And I said, quite honestly, I know nothing about it. I've never watched it. I come from, I'm a soccer fan. And he said to me, then you're probably the wrong person to shoot my movie. I'm doing Friday Night Lights. And I went, okay, hang on. And so I got myself this book, Dummies for Football for Dummies, read that, and then did some research and put pictures together and presented it to him. And then he finally gave in and gave me the job. But I felt it was kind of a challenge to capture that world that I really didn't know anything about. I didn't know anything about Texas, high school. And I kind of, and I think the end result I'm really happy about, that I found a way to get this. And that's what I love about our work, that we get thrown into these worlds that we don't know anything about, and we have to capture them and tell that story. So I'm quite proud of that movie. But every movie has its challenge, which I love. Sure. And hopefully we can continue doing more. And yeah.
Let's get a German soccer fan to shoot our Texas high school football movie.
I know, exactly.
How about you, John?
Really the very first stuff I shot on TV in New York. And at that time, it was a father-son business, and no one in my family was a cinematographer. And I was really frustrated by constantly making mistakes, but I was self-taught. And then it took me a while to realize that being self-taught was a tremendous advantage, because it meant I didn't fall into a bunch of visual cliches that existed at that time. And learning to embrace the mistakes that I continue to make brings me back to that time. So that's was my hardest job, but also taught me the most in some ways.
And finally, Ed?
I guess, well, I mean, look at the time I loved it, but looking back, it was hard. My first main unit job was a comedy show, and we were doing, 11, 12 pages a day. I didn't know any different. Like, I'd sort of lucked into it. And I remember the producer in my interview said, do not try and win a BAFTA on my show, which I totally, did not. So yeah, successful, but like trying to shoot quickly and produce a look, and it led to lots more comedy work. And I'm really proud of, coming, doing a lot of that type of stuff. It teaches you. That said, if we're measuring difficulty by how many kind of visits from the sports therapist on my back, it was spending 110 days on an aircraft set. That was the toughest physically.
Yeah, there you go. Well, we're going to wrap things there. Thanks to all of you for your time and wisdom today. Once again, our panel has been Tobias Schliessler for All the Light We Cannot See on Netflix, Andrew Wehde for FX's The Bear, exclusively on Hulu, Ulvik Rokseth for The Continental on Peacock, Ed Moore for Hijack on Apple TV+, and John Lindley for FX's Justified City Primeval, exclusively on Hulu. All of their projects are currently streaming. Best of luck to the 5 of you this coming awards season, and thanks for joining us today at Gold Derby.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks.